So today I have the heartbreaking task of reviewing the 9th and latest edition in the Dynasty Warriors series. Now I feel obligated to say this up front, I am a huge fan of the often maligned series, ever since receiving a copy of Dynasty Warriors 2 with a surprise Christmas PS2 way back in 2000. Oh god, I'm so old. If you are somehow unfamiliar with the series, which at this point is actually impressive with the plethora of related spin-offs and franchise crossover series, the Dynasty Warriors corner of the much larger Warriors universe loosely adapts the historical events presented in the Chinese historical text Records of the Three Kingdoms, which covers the fall of the Han Dynasty and the subsequent civil war that followed, roughly a stretch of about 100 years. One of the prevailing reasons this series has managed to survive for so long is the rich story it is often able to weave, with the fantastic interconnections between dynamic historical figures, with numerous stories of fierce combat, deep political intrigue, competing ambitions, backstabbing, assassinations, moving displays of friendship and loyalty, self-sacrifice. It really is a wonder that more video game studios haven't tapped into this rich history. Although with Sega's upcoming Total War Three Kingdoms on the horizon, perhaps that's finally about to change. So how does Dynasty Warriors 9 compare to the rest of the series and as a standalone game? Well, let's start with what we liked, with the good. First up, the character design. Another strength the series always enjoyed is a richness in unique characters, each with their own motives, reasoning, ambitions, and sometimes looks. In Dynasty Warriors 9, the characters have never looked better. Each one has their own distinct look and are more detailed than ever before. There was a time when some of the characters looked too similar. For example, Cao Cao, Liu Bei, Sun Jian were all kind of hard to distinguish aside from the colors of their outfits, which corresponded to their respective kingdoms. With 90 playable characters, this is an incredible accomplishment and should rightfully be praised. Unfortunately, that's where the good in Dynasty Warrior 9 ends. So let's move on to what we did not enjoy with the bad. First up is the English dubbing. Holy shit, the voice acting is terrible. It is undoubtedly the first thing you notice in the game, and it is painful. Do yourself a favor and play for maybe an hour or so in English just to experience it. Have a laugh, and then just go to settings and change it to Chinese or Japanese. Now this is something that came as a surprise to me because since Dynasty Warriors 4, the game has had some truly excellent voice acting. I guess I should have been a little bit more wary since Tecmo Koei's other more recent releases in the Warriors universe, such as Warriors Orochi 3 or Warriors All-Star, had no English dubbing whatsoever. But those games both boast much larger playable casts with over 120 characters, so while disappointing, it's somewhat understandable for those two. But this, it's like no one gave a fuck. Lines are delivered with next to no enthusiasm. It just seems like the voice actors were given no direction and no goddamn context for what they were reading. I mean, just listen.
I may not be able to find a great leader to whom I can dedicate my life and blade, but I must soon find someone with whom I can train and reach new heights.
Really want to get in the way of the yellow turbans? In that case, you'll have to deal with my quick feet and my strong arms. Incredible! I never knew anyone could be this strong. I'm gonna go train some more. Next time we meet, I hope you'll take me as your disciple.
I claim another victory in the name of my brother. I will...
Yeah. Next up on the bad, we have the open world. Now this is the biggest thing that is different with Dynasty Warriors 9. This is the first time that the series has done away with the closed-off linear maps in favor of a large open world China. And it fails spectacularly at it. It really does. This is a perfect example of how not to do an open world. It's a vast, grayish yellow, sometimes green, wasteland. It's devoid of anything really interesting, despite the occasional bear or deer, silly-looking rock. The open world fundamentally hurts the game here. The battlefield is now spread across far too much space, leaving you the option to run or ride your horse for long stretches, collecting meaningless crafting items, or just fast travel to your next mission if it's in an area previously explored. If the next mission is in an undiscovered territory though, buckle up, you're in for some truly whelming gameplay. All of this just makes the fighting, you know, the main point of the hack and slash genre, few and far between. An apt metaphor here would be driving your car, getting up to speed, and then immediately crashing into a brick wall, over and over again. Now there are side missions or requests you can find along the way, but these are pointless and mind-numbingly repetitive. Kill a bandit, fight a shield guard, collect deer pelts, over and over and over. They don't get more interesting, they don't get more challenging, just don't do them. Added to that is just how bad it looks, which brings us to our next point, the graphics. Jagged, pixelated edges, dropped frame rates, disappearing, reappearing textures, this game looks terrible. Now, Dynasty Warriors was never a great game to look at, but the way things are now, this game is an insult. It somehow manages to look worse than Dynasty Warriors 8, which was a last-gen game, ported to current-gen systems. How, Tecmo Koei? Moving on to our next point on the bad is the combat system. Well, I will say this is not the worst system that has been in a Dynasty Warriors game. It's also not great. In most of the previous iterations, you have one button for normal attacks and another button for charge attacks that you can chain together in many different and varied ways to kill the vast hordes before you. This combat system's a little watered down and even simplified, requiring you to use a combination of trigger buttons and face buttons for shorter combinations. The Musu attack seems also to have been nerfed considerably, but it doesn't really matter, because you don't need it. The combat system as it is lets you break enemy officers' guards fairly easy, and it's just a matter of chipping away at their health until you get a somewhat functioning quick time for a finisher. While the finisher thing is neat for the overabundance of shield guards or assault captains you find, who, for some stupid reason, have as much health as named characters and generals, it makes the fights with actual characters seem rather cheap. And you can easily beat generals that are much higher level than you with this combat system. In fact, I really don't think it's even possible to die unless you're playing on the hardest levels. It makes an already boring game even less interesting. I will say that there is some variety on how some of the characters feel, with their animations being varied just enough to break the monotony of doing this with 90 plus characters. Although the limitations of the combat system keep this from truly being a positive note. Next on our list of the bad, the endless list of useless mechanics. This game is bogged down by pointless time sink nonsense. I'll try to make this quick. As I stated already, side missions and requests are useless. Hunting is stupid. Fishing is embarrassingly pointless, and at no point do you see a goddamn fish. These are both mechanics gleaned from games like Far Cry or Horizon Zero Dawn, but just stripped of all their polish. Crafting anything besides weapons and the occasional health item is pointless. Gathering crafting items is thus also pointless. Buying a hideaway, of which there are multiple across the land, all of which look identical, is pointless. Decorating your hideaway is pointless. I can't seem to figure out how to write letters to officers to have them visit me in my hideaway, but I'm just going to assume that it is also pointless. Siege attacks on closed enemy fortresses are pointless, because you have a grappling hook, and you can Spider-Man up any wall that is taller than 6 feet. That's right, you cannot climb on the small walls. Go figure. Next point, lack of weapons. Remember how the only good point was the character design? Well, small caveat, They removed a lot of the weapons, some that made characters unique. Zhang He, well known for his claws in other games, now is throwing knives like a myriad of other characters. Zhang Zhuo has a flail instead of bombs. Weapons will be repeated far too often for longtime fans of the series. And on to our last point. New Dynasty Warriors, same dumb shit. Despite being the 9th game in the series, Dynasty Warriors 9 does nothing to fix problems that have long plagued the series. In fact, they might actually be worse here. Enemies disappearing and reappearing out of nowhere, tons of clipping, glitches. My least favorite thing is that sometimes when fast traveling, you will have to wait several long seconds for the person you need to talk to actually show up, and then several more seconds after accepting the mission for the game to tell you where to go. The only thing that seems not to be much of an issue as in previous games is the consistent slowdowns. They're still present, but somewhat rare. So, as a diehard fan of the series, I brokenheartedly give Dynasty Warriors 9 a 2 out of 10. If this is what the series is going to offer going forward, I want out. This is a tremendous misstep for the franchise. I think it tried to be too many things and appease too many people at once. While I would give credit to Tecmo Koei for trying to incorporate new features and freshen up the series, which, I will admit, the series desperately needs, it doesn't mean anything when they put such little effort into it. So that's our first review. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Tell us what you think of the game, or make suggestions to what you would like to see get reviewed down the road in the comments below. If you liked this video and would like to see more, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on all the socials. Or not. It's up to you. See you around.